All right, we are live. Yesterday, I was at a coffee shop. I was at this beautiful coffee shop, which has. I actually love this coffee shop because I think the owner, he personally likes some books and he reads books. He likes some books, and then in all he has, I'm guessing 4 to 5 branches or 4 to 5 uh, coffee shops in Vancouver downtown, in or maybe broader Vancouver. I don't know, but over there he has the same books. And I got introduced to Stephen Pressfield's War of Art through that coffee shop. And I absolutely am grateful for that book because that book changed. That book changed a lot of things. If you look at the past, it might have changed a couple of things. Even today, a lot of things that I think about are influenced by War of Art in terms of how I think about my work. But, anyways, I found this another book yesterday, and it was talking about protein, and it was talking about how important protein is, how humans are, I think, 60% water and 20% protein, and how protein is a requirement for our body. So I thought, why not dig into it? All right, let's see. Let's see. Tell me, what is the importance of consuming protein? When we look at age of abundance cannot come only in one direction, which is technology. Age of abundance has to come in all directions: health, wealth, relationships. So, health, which involves food and exercise, wealth, again, food and exercise is like for number one, getting good nutrition. So, your body has everything it needs, and exercise. So, your body is strong. And then comes wealth. Wealth is all about, yeah, not worrying about the essentials. You have the essentials covered. And then relationships, you have the friendships, you have all the love around you. Okay, protein is essential for building and repairing tissues. It supports muscle growth, repair, and maintenance, crucial for recovery from an exercise or injury. Enzyme and hormone production. Proteins from form enzymes that drive metabolic processes and hormones that regulate body functions like growth and metabolism. Immune function. Antibodies, which are proteins, help fight infections and support immune health. Energy source. When carbs or fats are low, protein can provide energy, though it's not the primary source. Satiety. I don't know how to pronounce that. Satiety and weight management. Protein promotes fullness, helping control appetite and support weight loss or maintenance. I think this was a big thing where they were talking that the satiety concept, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but feeling full is such a big component because when you don't consume protein and you don't feel full, you go towards other things that, like, you go towards sugar, you go towards a lot of carbs, thinking that they might fill you up, but they won't because you need protein. And support weight loss or maintenance. Structural support. Proteins like collagen and creatine provide strength to skin, hair, nails, and connective tissue. Adequate protein intake 0.8 to 2 grams per kg body weight daily, depending on activity level. Prevents muscle loss, supports overall health, and is critical for growth, development, and aging well. Deficiencies can lead to muscle wasting, weakened immunity, and impaired healing. This is very interesting. Are we doing like a deep dive? All right, let's see. Protein sources and benefits. Animal based protein sources: lean meats, chicken, turkey, beef, pork. Benefits: high in complete proteins, all essential amino acids rich in iron, zinc, and B vitamins, essentially B12, support muscle growth, repair, and oxygen transport. Protein content 20 to 30 grams per 100 gram. Fish and seafood: salmon, tuna, shrimp, cod. Benefits: provides omega 3 fatty acids, health, heart and brain health, high quality protein and micronutrients like selenium and iodine, low in saturated fat, protein content 20 to 25 grams per 100 grams. Eggs. Benefits: complete protein with high bioavailability, rich in choline, brain health, and versatile. Supports muscle repair and satiety. 6 gram per large egg. Dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk, cheese contains casein and whey, slow and fast digesting proteins, calcium, bone health, and probiotics in yogurt, gut health, ideal for muscle recovery and satiety. Protein content Greek yogurt 10 grams per 100 grams, cottage cheese 11 grams per 100 grams, milk 3.4 per 100 ml. Plant based protein sources legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, benefits high in fiber, digestive health, iron, and folate, affordable and sustainable, combined with grains for complete protein. 7 to 9 grams per 100 grams cooked. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, soy products, tofu, tempeh, edamame. Benefits complete protein rich in iron and calcium, especially fortified, support heart health due to low saturated fat. Protein content tofu 10 to 15 grams per 100 gram, tempeh 9 gram per 100 gram. Nuts and seeds, almonds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds. Benefits provide healthy fats, fiber, and micronutrients like magnesium and vitamin E. Hemp seeds offer complete protein good for snacking and heart health. Protein content almonds 7 grams per 30 gram, chia seeds 5 gram per 30 gram. Whole grain quinoa, brown rice, oats. Quinoa is complete protein. Others provide fiber and B vitamins, supports energy and digestion when paired with legumes. Plant-based protein, pea, rice, hemp, convenient, often complete when blended. Support muscle building for vegans, vegetarians. Plant-based protein powders, pea, rice, hemp. Insects, crickets, mealworms, sustainable high in complete protein micronutrients like iron and zinc, growing in popularity in some regions 15 to 20 grams. Algae, spirulina, chlorella, rich in antioxidants, iron and B vitamins, supports detoxification and immune health. General benefits, muscle growth and repair, essential for hypertrophy, recovery from exercise and preventing muscle loss. Sarcopenia with aging. Metabolic health, supports enzyme and hormone production, regulating metabolism, blood sugar, and growth. Immune support, proteins form antibodies bolstering defenses against infections. Satiety and weight management, increases fullness, reducing overeating and aiding fat loss or maintenance. Bone and tissue health, collagen and other proteins strengthen bone, skin, hair, and connective tissues. Energy backup, provides energy 4 kcal per gram when carbs, fats are insufficient. Tips for optimal protein intake, aim for variety, combine animal and plant sources to diversify nutrient intake. Complete proteins, animal sources and soy, quinoa are complete. Pair incomplete proteins, beans plus rice for all essential amino acids. Recommended intake, 0.8 gram per kg body weight for sedentary adults, 1.2 to 2 grams per kg for active individuals or athletes. Timing, spread intake across meals to maximize muscle protein synthesis. I can tailor recommendations further. Tell me about the history of Homo sapiens and protein. That's an interesting question. Okay. The relationship between Homo sapiens and protein consumption is deeply intertwined with our species' evolution, survival, and cultural development. Active, critical nutrient for our physical and cognitive growth, shaping our biology, behavior, and societies over hundreds of thousands of years. Early Homo sapiens and Paleolithic era. Homo sapiens emerged in Africa around 300,000 years ago, evolving from earlier hominins like Homo heidelbergensis. As hunter-gatherers, early humans relied on a varied diet. Oh, battery low. Okay. Quick recharge. We are back. Whoa, what just happened? Yes. As hunter gatherers, early humans relied on a varied diet shaped by their environment, protein sources, hunting, large game, mammoth, bison, deer provided high quality protein and fat. Hunting required sophisticated tools, spears, bows, and social cooperation, driving cognitive and cultural evolution. Fishing and foraging. Coastal populations consume fish, shellfish, and aquatic animals rich in protein and omega 3 fatty acids, which supported brain development. Hmm, so interesting. If you are on land, if in the middle of the land, you are hunting for animals. If you are at the coast, you are hunting for aquatic animals. If you are, hmm, if you are far away from being able to hunt, then you just get chickens, and you have chicken and you have eggs. Hmm. Insects and small game. Insects, termites, locusts, and small animals were reliable protein sources, especially in lean times. Plant based proteins, seeds, nuts, and legumes supplemented diets, though they were less bioavailable and required processing, grinding, cooking. Importance of protein brain development. High protein diets, especially from animal sources, provided amino acids and fats critical for the growth of larger brains. Encephalization, omega 3s from fish likely enhance cognitive abilities, physical endurance. Protein supported muscle maintenance and recovery, essential for long distance hunting and migration. Survival. Protein rich foods were calorie dense, helping humans endure food scarcity in harsh climates during migrations out of Africa 70,000 to 50,000 years ago. Challenges. Obtaining protein was risky, hunting large animals, and energy intensive. Seasonal scarcity forced reliance on diverse sources, fostering adaptability. Obtaining protein was risky, hunting large animals, and energy intensive. Seasonal scarcity forced reliance on diverse sources, fostering adaptability. The Neolithic Revolution and agricultural shift, 10,000 to 3000 BCE. Around 10,000 years ago, Homo sapiens transitioned from hunter gatherer lifestyles to agriculture in regions like Fertile Crescent, China, and Mesoamerica. The shift altered protein sources and dietary patterns. Protein sources, domesticated animals, cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, and poultry provided reliable meat, milk, and eggs. Dairy introduced new proteins, casein, whey, and nutrients like calcium. Legumes and grains. Crops like lentils, chickpeas, beans, and wheat became staples. Combining legumes with grains, beans, and rice provided complementary amino acids approximating complete proteins. Hunting and fishing continued as supplementary protein sources, especially for non agricultural communities. Importance of protein. Sustained populations. Domestic animals and crops supported larger settled communities by ensuring consistent protein availability. Sustained populations. Domestic animals and crops supported larger settled communities by ensuring consistent protein availability. Cultural development. Animal domestication led to pastoralism, influencing social structures, trade, and rituals, sacrificial offerings. Domestic animals and crops supported larger settled communities by ensuring consistent protein availability. Animal domestication led to pastoralism, influencing social structures, trade, and rituals, sacrificial offerings. Hmm. Health impacts. While agriculture increased food security, reliance on plant based proteins and reduced dietary diversity sometimes led to deficiencies, iron, B12, impacting growth and immunity. Early farmers faced protein scarcity during crop failures or livestock diseases. Over reliance on incomplete proteins, maize without beans caused malnutrition in some regions. Wow. Domesticated animals, legumes, and grains, hunting and fishing. Non agricultural communities. Important. Sustained population. Domestic animals and crops supported larger settled communities by ensuring consistent protein availability. Animal domestication led to pastoralism, influencing social structures, trade, and rituals. While agriculture increased food security, reliance on plant based proteins and reduced dietary diversity sometimes led to deficiencies, impacting growth and immunity. Ancient civilizations and protein hierarchies. The rise of civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Indus Valley, China, Mesoamerica, brought complex societies, trade, and dietary stratification. Elite diets, wealthy classes consume abundant animal proteins, beef, lamb, fish, fowl, often reserved for feast or religious ceremonies. Commoner diets, peasants relied on plant based proteins, lentils, beans, barley, with occasional dairy or small amounts of meat, fish. Wow. This makes me think like back in India, we most of no you rarely come across people who are eating protein every single day. Over here, eating protein every single day is normal. It's common. Back in India, you were not eating protein every single day, especially the meat. And protein is still considered as an elite diet. Wow. Peasants relied on plant based proteins, lentils, beans, barley, with occasional dairy or small amounts of meat, fish, fermented foods, soybeans, tofu, tempeh in East Asia, and fermented yogurt, fermented dairy, yogurt, cheese in Europe, Middle East provided preserved protein sources. Importance of protein, social stratification. Access to high quality protein became a status symbol, reinforcing class hierarchies. Meat, dairy. This is so true. This is so true. Wow. Trade and exploration, protein rich foods, dried fish, salted meat, fuel long distance trade and military campaigns. Salted meat, dried fish. Ritual and religion, animal sacrifices and offerings tied protein consumption to spiritual practices, embedding it in cultural traditions. Challenges, unequal protein distribution led to health disparities. Lower classes often faced protein, energy, malnutrition, while elites risked overconsumption related issues. Whoa, what is goot? This is still true today, right? Like, because in the West, people are consuming protein every single day, but if you go in especially in India, I don't know about other Eastern countries, but especially in India, a lot of people take pride in being vegetarian because that is attached to the religion. I'm not sure how much of that is because there was no access to protein versus how much of that is because they just couldn't afford it. Okay, we are. So, this was the ancient civilizations, protein hierarchies. Okay, medieval and early modern periods, global trade, exploration, technological advances, milling, preservation, expanded protein access and variety. New World crops. The Columbian Exchange 1492 introduced beans, peanuts, and maize to Europe, Africa, and Asia, diversifying plant based proteins. Livestock and dairy, cheese, butter, and milk were staples in Europe. Nomadic cultures, Mongols, relied on fermented mare's milk, preserved proteins. Salted cod, jerky, and pemmican enabled long voyages and military campaigns. Salted cod, jerky, and pemmican enable long voyages and military campaigns. Cheese, butter, and milk were staples in Europe. Nomadic cultures relied on fermented mare's milk. Importance of protein, exploration, colonization. Protein rich foods sustained explorers and settlers, enabling global expansion. Workforce health, protein supported physical labor in growing urban centers and agricultural economies. Culinary innovation, protein centric dishes, stews, roasts became central to regional cuisines, reflecting cultural identities. Challenges, periodic famines and reliance on monotonous diets, breads, and pulses caused protein deficiencies in poor population. Wow. Protein rich foods sustained explorers and settlers. Workforce health. Protein centric dishes became central to regional cuisines, reflecting cultural identities. Industrial and modern era, 1800 to present. The Industrial Revolution, scientific advancements, and globalization transformed protein production, distribution, and consumption. Mass produced meat, industrial farming, and refrigeration made meat widely accessible in developed nations. Dairy and eggs, mechanized production increased availability of milk, cheese, and eggs. Plant based innovations, soy products, protein powders, and meat analogs emerged, driven by vegetarian, vegan movements and sustainability concerns. Hmm. Tell me more about the vegan vegetarian movement. Okay. Novel proteins, insects, algae, and lab grown meat gained traction as sustainable alternatives. Importance of protein, nutrition science. In the 19th century, protein was identified as a macronutrient essential for growth, repair, and metabolism. Recommended intakes were established. Public health, protein fortification addressed malnutrition in developing regions, while high protein diets supported athletic performance in bodybuilding and affluent societies. Hmm. Protein fortification addressed malnutrition in developing regions, while high protein diets supported athletic performance in bodybuilding and affluent societies. Environmental, environmental and ethical shifts. Concerns about meat production's ecological impact, deforestation, emissions, and animal welfare spurred interest in plant based and alternative proteins. Challenges: overconsumption. Excessive animal protein in Western diets is linked to heart disease, kidney strain, and cancer risk. Hmm. Inequity. Protein access remains unequal with undernutrition in low income regions and over reliance on processed proteins and other. Sustainability. Industrial meat production strains resources, prompting research into lab grown and plant based proteins. Environmental and ethical shifts, public health. Protein fortification addressed malnutrition in developing regions, while high protein diets supported athletic performance and bodybuilding and affluent societies. Industrial meat production strained resources, prompting research into lab grown and plant based proteins. Tell me more about overconsumption. What is overconsumption? All right. Evolutionary and biological perspective. Adaptations. Homo sapiens evolved to efficiently digest and metabolize diverse proteins, unlike some primates with plant heavy diets. Genes like AMY1 for starch digestion and LCT for lactose digestion in adulthood reflect dietary adaptations to protein rich foods. Protein's role in survival. High protein diets likely gave Homo sapiens a competitive edge over other hominins, Neanderthals, supporting larger brains and social cooperation resilience. While our ancestors prioritized protein for survival, today's abundance in some regions contrasts with scarcity in others, highlighting ongoing challenges in equitable nutrition. Protein fueled the physical and cognitive development of Homo sapiens, enabling survival, migration, and cultural complexity. From hunter gatherer reliance on wild game to agricultural and industrial systems, protein sources diversify, reflecting technological and social changes. Protein access shaped social hierarchies, cuisines, and rituals across history. Balancing protein intake with health, sustainability, and equity remains a global issue, driving innovation in alternative proteins. Protein overconsumption and health risk among elites in ancient civilization. Privileged access to protein rich foods, particularly animal protein, which were scarce or reserved for special occasions among commoners. While this abundance symbolized wealth and power, it also led to health risks associated with protein overconsumption, with good being a prominent example. Context: social stratification. In societies like Mesopotamia, Egypt, Rome, China, and Mesoamerica, food access reflected social hierarchy. Elites, nobles, priests, rulers consumed diets rich in animal proteins, while peasants subsisted on plant based staples. Barley, lentils, maize. Protein as status. Meat especially red meat, beef, lamb, pork, game, venison, boar. I'm I'm curious, why do they call it game? An exotic seafood was a luxury due to the labor and resources required for hunting, herding, and fishing, or fishing. Feast featuring lavish protein heavy dishes reinforced power and prestige. Cultural practices. Protein consumption was tied to rituals such as animal sacrifices in Egypt or Mesoamerica, where elites often received prime cuts. In Rome, banquets showcase excessive meat and fish dishes, reflecting opulence. Good and protein overconsumption is a form of inflammatory arthritis caused by elevated uric acid levels in the blood. Hyperuricemia, leading to the formation of urate crystals in joints, particularly the big toe. It causes intense pain, swelling, and redness. Purine metabolism. Animal proteins, especially organ meats, liver, kidneys, red meat, and certain fish, ang- anchovies, sardines, are high in purines, compounds that break down into uric acid. Excessive purine intake increases uric acid production, overwhelming the body's ability to excrete it. Elite diets often include alcohol, which impairs uric acid excretion in sugary foods, honey, dried fruits. Whoa. Which contribute to metabolic stress. Sedentary lifestyles among elites further exacerbated the risk. Wow. Ancient texts. Good was described in ancient medical texts such as those by Hippocrates 460 to 370 BCE, who called it the disease of kings due to its association with rich diets. He noted its prevalence among wealthy men consuming meat and wine. Egyptian records. Skeletal remains of Egyptian elites show signs of good, likely linked to their meat heavy diets. Mummified tissues occasionally reveal urate deposits. Roman accounts. Roman physicians like Galen documented good among aristocrats, attributing it to overindulgence in meat, fish, and alcohol during lavish banquets. Chinese dynasties. In ancient China, good was noted among nobility consuming pork, mutton, and fermented beverages, as described in early medical texts like the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine. Specific health risk. Kidney strain. High protein intake increases the kidney's workload to excrete nitrogenous waste. Chronic overconsumption could contribute to kidney damage, though this was less documented in ancient times. Cardiovascular issues. Diets high in red meat and saturated fats, common in elite feasts, likely raised risk of heart disease, though ancient diagnostics rarely identified this. Roman elites, for example, consumed fatty meats and rich sauces, potentially clogging arteries. Obesity and metabolic disorders. Excessive calorie dense proteins combined with sugary and starchy foods contributed to obesity among elites. In Mesoamerica, Mayan noble skeletal remains suggest higher rates of obesity compared to commoners. Digestive problems. Overeating meat, especially without sufficient fiber, common in elite diets focused on refined grains and meat, led to constipation and gastrointestinal issues, noted in Roman and Chinese medical writings. Cultural and social implications. Perception of excess. While good and related ailments were painful, they were sometimes paradoxically viewed as badges of status. Suffering from a rich man's disease reinforced an elite's social standing, and it implied access to luxurious foods. Ancient physicians recommended dietary moderation to treat good, but elites often ignored such advice due to cultural pressures to display wealth through feasting. Treatments included herbal remedies, called colchicine from autumn crocus in Greece, and bloodletting with mixed success. Commoners reliant on plant based proteins rarely suffer from good but face protein energy, malnutrition, or deficiencies. This health disparity underscored dietary inequity. Examples across civilizations. Ancient Egypt. Pharaohs and nobles consumed beef, fowl, and fish from the Nile, often paired with beer and wine. Skeletal evidence from tombs, Amarna period, show good and elites likely from purine rich diets. The Roman elites' cena lavish dinners featured dishes like dormice, peacock, and garum, fermented fish sauce, all high in purines. Satirists like Juvenal mocked the goat-ridden aristocracy. Han Dynasty elites ate pork, mutton, and dog meat with rice wine. Medical texts link joint pain to overindulgence, prescribing acupuncture and dietary restraint. Mayan and Aztec nobles consumed turkey, deer, and fish reserved for rituals or feasts. Skeletal analysis suggests gout like symptoms in some elite remains. Modern parallels and lessons, continued risk. High purine diets today, particularly in societies with abundant meat and alcohol. Modern research confirms that red meat, shellfish, and fructose from sugary drinks elevate uric acid levels. Dietary balance. Ancient elites' issues highlight the importance of moderation and dietary diversity. Current guidelines recommend limiting red meat and pairing proteins with fiber rich plants to mitigate risk. Socioeconomic shifts. Was once an elite disease, it now affects broader population due to widespread access to purine rich processed foods, reflecting a democratization of dietary risk. Elite privilege and peril. In ancient civilization, abundant protein, especially meat, was a status symbol, but led to gout and other health issues due to purine overload and lifestyle factors. Disease of kings. Egypt to Rome to China, health disparities. While elites suffer from overconsumption, commoners faced undernutrition, highlighting protein's role in social inequity. These patterns underscore the need for balanced protein intake, a lesson still relevant in modern nutrition. Oh, I love how Grok is giving super deep responses. Super deep responses. Okay. Tell me more. I think we did this one. Okay. Vegetarian vegan movements. The vegetarian vegan movements have significantly influenced dietary habits, cultural attitudes, and protein consumption, driven by ethical, environmental, health, and religious motivations. Reshaped how people source protein, emphasizing plant based alternatives and sparking innovations in food systems. Vegetarianism, the practice of abstaining from meat and sometimes other animal products, has ancient roots tied to religion, philosophy, and ethics. Early vegetarianism shaped alternative protein sourcing, relying heavily on plant-based foods. Origins of uh, ancient times, 18th century. Okay, India. Oh yeah, India. Let's go. Vegetarianism is deeply rooted in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, which emphasize ahimsa, non-violence. Texts like Upanishads and Mahabharata advocate meat avoidance. Jains, in particular, follow strict vegetarianism, relying on legumes, lentils, chickpeas, grains, rice, wheat, and dairy for protein. Soy was later incorporated post Han Dynasty as tofu, a complete protein. Ancient Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras and his followers avoided meat for ethical reasons, believing it promoted harmony with nature. They consumed beans, nuts, and grains, though beans were sometimes taboo due to superstitions. Whoa. Buddhism and East Asia became common in monasteries. Chinese monks developed plant based dishes, mock meats from wheat and gluten, to mimic animal proteins, ensuring adequate nutrition. Ancient Egypt and Rome, some religious sects, Egyptian priests, Orphic cults practiced vegetarianism for purity, but it was less common. Diets included lentils, barley, and vegetables. Legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, dairy. Beans and rice was intuitive in many cuisines, providing essential amino acids. Was often a minority practice tied to spiritual and philosophical ideals. It contrasted with elite, meat-heavy diets, which was noted earlier led to issues like gout. The rise of modern vegetarianism emerged in Europe and North America, driven by ethical health and social reform movements. Key development, religious influence. In Britain, the Bible Christian Church promoted vegetarianism as a moral and health practice, inspired by Christian temperance. Members consumed legumes, whole grains, and dairy for protein. The Vegetarian Society, founded in Manchester, England, this was the first secular vegetarian organization, popularized the term vegetarian from Latin vegetis, meaning lively, and advocated meat-free diets for health, ethics, and economy. The society emphasized affordable protein sources like lentils, peas, and nuts. Health reform movements. In the US, figures like Sylvester Graham, of graham cracker fame, whoa, and John Harvey Kellogg, Seventh day Adventist, promoted vegetarianism for physical and moral health. Kellogg's Battle Creek Sanitarium served nut butter, cereals, and soy based foods, innovating plant based proteins. Literary and ethical advocacy. Writers like Percy Bysshe Shelley, A Vindication of Natural Diet, and Leo Tolstoy championed vegetarianism to oppose animal cruelty and promote compassion. Protein sources. The 19th century saw increased use of legumes, whole grains, nuts, and early processed foods, peanut butter introduced in the 1890s. Dairy and eggs were common in lacto-ovo vegetarian diets. Soy products, though niche, gained traction in health-focused communities. Impact on protein consumption. Advocates highlighted that plant based proteins could meet nutritional needs, challenging the meat centric diets of elites and emerging middle classes. Cheap, shelf stable legumes and grains made vegetarianism viable for the working class, contrasting with the good inducing excesses of elite diets noted earlier. The discovery of protein as a macronutrient prompted research into plant based sources, though myths about protein deficiency in vegetarian diets persisted. The emergence of veganism. A stricter form of vegetarianism avoided all animal products, meat, dairy, eggs, honey, emerged in the 20th century as an ethical and environmental stance. The Vegan Society. Founded in England by Donald Watson and Elsie Shrigley, the society coined the term vegan. It promoted a fully plant based diet for ethical reasons, citing animal welfare and resource conservation. Early vegans faced challenges meeting protein needs without dairy or eggs. Post-war growth. After World War II, veganism grew alongside animal rights movement. Books like Animal Liberation by Peter Singer galvanized ethical veganism, emphasizing factory farming's cruelties. Health and environmental drivers. In the 1970s, 80s studies linked animal proteins, especially red meat, to heart disease and cancer, boosting veganism's appeal. Environmental concerns such as deforestation for cattle ranching further fueled the movement. Protein sources. Traditional legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, soy products, tofu, tempeh, edamame, nuts, almonds, cashews, seeds, chia, hemp, flax, and whole grains, quinoa, amaranth. Innovations. 20th century saw the rise of textured vegetable protein (TVP) from soy, seitan, wheat, gluten, and fortified plant milks, soy, almond, to ensure protein and nutrient adequacy. It's very interesting. When I think about veganism, it's very interesting. It's like, hmm, the ethical makes sense. Humans are the species that are most mentally developed, so we can think about things like ethics. But what if you go to a lion and be like and try to teach them veganism, that hey, killing animals is bad. You should go and eat plants. He will die. So yeah, it's very interesting. Also, that's very interesting. We have to look at this problem. This is a problem. This is a very interesting problem where you are like, only by doing this at an industrial scale does the humanity exist today. The humanity exists today because people figured out how to make food at an industrial scale. This is so interesting. Wow. Wow. Yeah, but you cannot go to a tiger, a lion, and be like, hey, that's bad. That's against the ethics. Stop eating animals. Love them. He would die. So interesting. Wow. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, soy products, tofu, tempeh, edamame, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Innovation. The 20th century saw the rise of textured vegetable protein, seitan, wheat, gluten, and fortified plant milk, soy, almond to ensure protein and nutrient adequacy. Supplements, nutritional yeast, and early plant-based proteins powders, pea, rice emerged to address concerns about B12, iron, and protein intake. Impact on protein consumption. Nutritional science prompted research into plant-based protein bioavailability. Studies confirmed that diverse plant diets with complementary proteins Meat amino acid needs debunking deficiency myths. Hmm. Cultural shift. Veganism challenged the meat centric protein supremacy of Western diets, echoing ancient vegetarian traditions while addressing modern ethical concerns. Early vegans struggled with limited options, especially in non urban areas, with global trade and food processing improved access. Contemporary vegetarian vegan movements surged globally, driven by health, environmental, and ethical concerns, as well as technological and cultural shifts. It's true that we got over here and now we got to do things better. So now we are making alternate protein. Yeah, so that makes sense. We are moving in the right direction. Key drivers: health. Research links plant based diets to lower risk of heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers, contrasting with the good and cardiovascular risk of elite meat heavy diets in ancient times. Vegan diets are now endorsed by bodies like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics as nutritionally adequate. Livestock farming contributes 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Veganism, vegetarianism is promoted as a solution to climate change, water use, and deforestation. Animal rights campaigns by groups like PETA and documentaries Cowspiracy highlight factory farming's ethical issues driving vegan adoption. Cultural trends: celebrities, Beyonce, Joaquin Phoenix, social media influencers, and veganuary campaigns have normalized plant-based diets, especially among younger generations. Protein sources and innovation: plant-based meats. Companies like Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, and Corn Mycoprotein produce high-protein meat analogs using pea, soy, or fungal proteins. These mimic meat's texture and flavor, appealing to flexitarians. Wow. Alternative proteins. This is the best way to repel someone on a date. You're like, oh, do you eat meat? And you're like, I'm a flexitarian, and they're like, what is that? Alternative proteins, insect proteins, cricket flour, algae, spirulina, chlorella, and lab-grown meat cultured from animal cells offer sustainable high-protein options, though vegan acceptance of insects, lab meat varies. Fortified foods, protein powders, pea, hemp, brown rice blends, and fortified plant milks ensure complete amino acid profiles and micronutrients. Global staples, traditional foods like tempeh, Indonesia, natto, Japan, and hummus have gone global, diversifying protein options. Mainstream: 6% of US adults are vegetarian, 3% vegan, higher rates in countries like India. Flexitarian diets reducing meat was are also rising. Industry growth: 13 billion plant-based protein. Plant-based proteins require less land, water, and energy than animal proteins, addressing the environmental strain of industrial meat production. Critics argue that early vegetarians and vegans faced challenges meeting protein and micronutrient needs. Modern fortified foods and supplements have largely addressed this, but education is needed to ensure balanced diets. Cultural resistance: in meat centric cultures, veganism faces pushback as unmasculine or impractical, though this is fading. Contrast with elite overconsumption. Ancient elites' gut and health issues from excessive meat consumption parallel modern concerns about red meat and chronic diseases. Vegetarian vegan movements advocate plant based proteins as a healthier, sustainable alternative, echoing the plant heavy diets of ancient commoners and religious ascetics. Social dynamics: just as protein access reflected ancient class hierarchies, today's movements highlight inequities in access to nutritious, sustainable foods, with veganism often perceived as a privileged choice in some contexts. Future direction: technological advances, scaling of lab grown meat, and precision fermentation could make vegan proteins cheaper and more accessible. Governments are exploring meat taxes or subsidies for plant based foods to meet climate goals, potentially mainstreaming vegetarian vegan diets. counter the health risk of elite meat overconsumption, align with sustainable, equitable food systems, expanded protein options addressing nutrition and ecological challenges. Began in ancient religious philosophical traditions, ethical stance. Okay, so key takeaways are heart disease, kidney strain, cancer risk, historical echoes, actionable steps, reduce animal protein, prioritize plant based sources, and adopt balanced lifestyle to align with health and sustainability goals. Excessive animal protein, especially red processed meat, raises LDL cholesterol, TMAO, and blood pressure, increasing cardiovascular risk by 15 to 42%. High animal protein stresses kidneys via nitrogen, acid, and phosphate loads, raising CKD risk by 20 to 30%. Okay, really cool. Wow, that's a stream. That's a stream. We went from just talking about protein to the entire history of protein as related, as intertwined with the history of humanity.